And a lot has been made of the fact that he was able to stand his ground and kill an unarmed kid. That's really what's going on. People are gun crazy, to be honest with you.
Yes.
And it's terrible. We have, I don't know if anybody saw the Colbert Show, but they did a wonderful takeoff on this situation we have. And but the problem is really, it's more than just economic. It's more than black against white, the poor against the rich. It's just becoming a fad. The self-defense nonsense that they talk about. People kill each other all the time. It's nothing uncommon about it.
Well, there doesn't seem to be any...
The homeless are the victims. The homeless are more of the victims. Everything they own is on their back. And they're accused of everything that goes wrong, and they are the innocents who are the ones that are picked on.
I understand the people's right of self-defense, but you know, as a police officer, former police officer, that you have to establish the fact that somebody was a genuine threat to you. And that's one of the things that Frank Serpico has talked about. He's talked about Ferguson and other issues. He said, we've gotten to the culture now where police, all they have to say is, I felt that I was threatened in some way. And then lethal force is justified. He said when he was in the force, when Frank Serpico was in the force, he would fire a couple of shots and then reassess the situation instead of emptying his gun into people. And that's what we saw happen in Michigan with these 8 officers. They all just emptied their guns into this one homeless man who wasn't a threat whatsoever to them. I don't want to totally monopolize this. I know that Paul had originally picked up this article, and I imagine we've got Paul Joseph Watson, one of our writers in the UK. He's on the line, and I imagine he's got a question that he would like to ask you, Mr. Abbott. Paul, do you want to ask him something?
Yeah, I was just wondering, with the case going forward, we saw a very visible presence from the police on the beach when you were feeding the homeless previously.
Right.
Last night, as you said, they weren't at least out in force visibly. Do you think that's a sign that the city is beginning to back down, or is it just being done for public relations purposes?
No, I think that the police are embarrassed by what they're forced to do by the city fathers. They've acted very much like they didn't want to do what they did. They didn't want to lead me to a police car and write me up on a citation. They actually, I think, are sympathetic to our cause, but they have to do what they're ordered to do. They're employees. And as far as what was just said about Serpico, I call it fake provocation, because as a police commissioner, I saw many times cases where evidence was planted on the victims. And, of course, so the police can claim that they were threatened. And that happens all the time, too. It's human nature. You're going to have good cops and bad cops no matter what you do. And what you have to do is to improve the courts. So they recognize that these people have very little or no representation whatsoever. And I once started to write a book called The American Justice System, and strangely enough, it had mostly to do with Houston, Texas. And the fact that capital cases out in Houston, if you were poor and black, stay away from Houston, because that county had no time and place for people who were poor. And there were so many people were indicted and tried for murder cases, and actually they were exonerated some years later. But the unfortunate thing is they'd already been executed. So it's just a horrible thing that happens in our court system. I think that's where you have to start things being turned around.
Yeah.
The courts acted more humanely and with some merciful considerations, and also helping to give people the proper representation when they go to court, people to do some investigation. And I think that penalty should be eliminated 100%, because where you don't have equal justice and you have no provocation, either moral, ethical, or religious, for the death penalty, there's no reason for it. It's not administered fairly, and that's capital crime, and it's done terribly in our court system. And I apologize for taking all that time. But,
oh, no, absolutely. No, I agree with that. I kind of take Ron Paul's position on that. I mean, I'm not, in principle, opposed to the death penalty for certain things, but I don't believe that people are going to get a fair trial, or that they're going to get equal protection under the law in our court system. And so because of that, I don't support it. when I was reading this article where Frank Serpico was talking about it, I thought it was an interesting observation that he made, that he said back in the day that he was involved, I believe it was in the 70s, he said the real issue was corruption, about police lining their pockets with money. But he says now it seems like the epidemic is the use of force, the unrestrained use of force. And as you mentioned, Mr. Abbott, there are good cops and there are bad cops. What needs to be done, in your opinion, as a former police officer? I wasn't aware that you were a former police officer, but as a former police officer, what is, in your opinion, should we do when we have a bad cop who uses unnecessary force and injures someone? What should happen with that?
Well, we should have a more proper investigation than currently is done. Usually they just take them, put them on desk duty for a couple of weeks, and then they're back on the street or wherever.
Exactly. And they investigate themselves, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a bad system. They don't teach humanity 101, and that's what the police should learn. They should learn how to behave with people, how to treat people. They forget they're there to protect persons and property.
Thank you so much for joining us. We're out of time, Mr. Abbott. Thank you so much for what you're doing, and keep it up.
This hour brought to you by InfidelBodyArmor.com. When it hits the fan, don't be left without the body armor that will save your life. With prices starting at just $374.99 and ships free. Get yours at InfidelBodyArmor.com. Just won't quit.
Hi, Ted Anderson with Midas Resources. Is it time to convert paper 401ks and IRAs to solid gold and silver yet? Get our 10 Reasons book free. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
Silver has always been nature's very own antibiotic, and only one system allows you to generate an endless supply of natural silver solutions. SilverLungs.com. You'll find no wild claims or pseudoscience, just a lifetime of nano-sized pure silver solutions. The Silver Lungs generator allows you to make your own, so stop paying for silver solutions. The unique lung delivery system targets respiratory infections where other silver solutions simply cannot reach. See the Silver Lungs generator and lung delivery system at SilverLungs.com. That's SilverLungs.com.
It's very easy to be a criminal. All you need to burglarize a home is one simple household tool, a pair of scissors. If your home security system can be compromised by a criminal using scissors, then you're making it easy for them. Almost every home security system, even those sold by big-name companies, has a weakness. The phone line. You shell out $1,500, get locked into a long-term contract, and think you're safe. But a burglar can destroy your alarm in seconds with one snip. And when a burglar cuts your phone line, you're defenseless. Simply Safe Home Security is the smarter choice. Built by Harvard engineers, Simply Safe uses a wireless connection to call the cops. Scissors can't cut it. And that means your home stays safe. 24/7 professional monitoring is under $15 a month with no contract. Simply Safe Home Security keeps you safer than the other guys for half the cost. Protect your home with the alarm you can trust. Simply Safe. Go to simplysafedefense.com now for an exclusive 10% offer. That's simplysafedefense.com.
Did you know by age 50, half of all men have an enlarged prostate? This means more urges to urinate, longer bathroom trips, waking at night to urinate, or issues with sex. If this sounds familiar, call us now, because we're shipping free bottles of Super Beta Prostate to listeners of this station. Super Beta Prostate is a non-prescription formula guaranteed to reduce the symptoms of your enlarged prostate. It's yours free. Pay only shipping and handling. Just call 1-800-852-1820. In clinical trials, the ingredient in Super Beta Prostate was shown to reduce urges to urinate, improve bladder emptying, reduce waking at night to urinate, and improve quality of life. This Super Beta Prostate free offer is for listeners of this station, but it won't last. Don't wait. Just call 1-800-852-1820. That's 1-800-852-1820. Call 1-800-852-1820.
If you leave me, I won't miss you, and I won't ever take.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight in Austin. Paul Joseph Watson is with us in the UK. We were just talking to Arnold Abbott. And of course, he's the 90-year-old volunteer in Florida who's been threatened with arrest multiple times. The police kind of got in his face a bit in the early days. threatened him because he was feeding the homeless. Now, he was also a former police commissioner, so we talked to him about the different ways that the government has been brutalizing homeless people as well. But when we look at this, Paul, I'm reminded, of course, it was in Florida as well, that we saw the Terri Schiavo incident, where people were arrested at that time for trying to give Terri Schiavo a drink of water. And, of course, some of the people who are working with Arnold Abbott there are some Christian ministers in that area. One of them said, "We're simply trying to feed people who are hungry. To criminalize that is contrary to everything I stand for as a priest and as a person of faith." I think it really underscores when we need to stand up in civil disobedience against immoral laws. I think it's a real important point for people who are confused about Romans 13 and think that the government has some kind of absolute authority. No, there is a higher moral law. Just as Jesus said, "I was hungry and you didn't give me food. I was thirsty and you gave me no water." We saw that in Florida, literally saw that with Terri Schiavo. Now we're seeing it with these people as well. I think the Terri Schiavo case was far worse because that was one individual this was one judge who had a court order that nobody could feed her or give her water, and yet we saw the Bush brothers stand by and not countermand that. We had Jeb Bush as governor. We had George W. as president at the time. I was absolutely appalled when that happened. Paul, what do you think? Do you remember that?
I remember it well, even though it was, about 9-10 years ago now. I mean, she died one of the most excruciating deaths that anyone could possibly experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was horrific. With the Abbott case, I think there's also another aspect to it, which is they don't care about sanitation issues. They want to send this message that anybody who defies these ordinances, no matter how unfair they may be, will be punished. They don't want that message of defiance to reverberate and spread to include and influence any other aspect of government. Also, the mayor came out with some interesting comments about 2 weeks ago. He said basically that the homeless in Fort Lauderdale should be forced to, quote, have interaction with government. So they need these homeless people to be dependent on the government. Yes. They don't want the fellow citizens helping them out because, again, that would spread a message of community and getting the homeless, getting people on low income, below the poverty line, away from being dependent on government and going towards charity and help from their fellow citizens. So the government, the city, does not want that message or that precedent to be established in Fort Lauderdale.
It cuts to the very heart of the welfare state. The welfare state is not there about compassion. And we can clearly see that the government doesn't care about compassion, the way they treat homeless people, beating them to death, shooting them to death, denying people the ability to give them food without coming after those people. And we also see, and I think it's very important for people to understand, step back and take a look at this and understand that there are higher moral laws, that just because the government passes some kind of a regulation, sometimes it's not only your right but your duty to oppose that regulation. I saw that the report that I did as part of the reporters contest was with an older gentleman as well. He was in his 80s, and he was fighting for fully informed juries. That was Julian Heiklin. You know, these guys who are older, they don't have a lot of, you can't really intimidate them. As they say, you know, when you've got nothing left to lose, that's another name for freedom. So we're going to be right back with Paul Joseph Watson. We're going to be talking about the immigration executive orders, and really, that's the key. It's Obama as emperor. We'll be right back.
This is GCN, the Genesis Communications Radio Network.
When you're out on the road, the last place you want to be is on the road. But if the unfortunate happens, you'll be glad you were wearing diamond gussets.
There's a place down in Tennessee where they make blue diamond gusset jeans. They so pride in every stitch, guarantee you'll love the way they fit. They put a diamond gusset in the crotch where you need it most. Blue diamond gussets got it, others don't.
We turn jeans inside out. Diamond Gusset Jeans. Made in the USA with unparalleled quality. Our Defender motorcycle jeans combine gusset comfort with Kevlar protection, so you can ride all day with confidence. Order yours at gusset.com. Diamond Gusset Jeans got it. Others don't.